Welcome to the Profit Talks podcast, hosted by the Orange County Inland Empire SBDC Network, funded in part by the U.S. Small Business Administration and the California Office of the Small Business Advocate. This show is the go-to resource for business owners seeking empowerment, education, and resources to succeed. Join us as we connect you with experts, share the triumphs of fellow entrepreneurs, and reveal the wealth of assistance available to you today to level up your business. So let's go. Let's dive in and learn more. Well, welcome back. We have today, we're going to call it kind of a case study here. We've got a really interesting journey here that we're going to talk about with somebody who stumbled into a business because he thought it would be fun and stumbled into a hornet's nest instead, and how he navigated or righted the ship, right the ship or whatever it was, get the ship back floating again here, and taking it to new seas, new adventures here. Welcome, if you will, Dennis Kause from Bio Orthopedic Lab. Welcome, sir.
Paul, hi, welcome.
You were telling me off air this story, and we're late in even recording this because the more you told me, I kept going, oh my God. So let's recount some of that story for everybody here. You, prior to this business, did what? You were in IT?
Yeah, I would say I was in the technology arena, working with people initially in the implementation of operational systems to increase the efficiencies of their business. And we realized whether you're installing one of the big ones, SAP or Oracle, everybody's installing the same software. What makes you different? Right. So we evolved into I call it Moneyball for business.
Yeah, right. I love that term. You know,
if anybody's read the book, or anybody has seen the movie, analytics. So we went into how do you get your data from disparate systems and make sense out of it so you can run your business and improve it based on your own performance metrics. So the last 20 years of my career have been helping people get that operational efficiency with new systems so they're collecting the right data and then using the data to drive their business forward. And that's their strategy versus their competitors.
But that sounds like a consultant. That sounds like you get brought in, you fix something, and you ride off. Why did you decide to take on running one of these enterprises here? Why would you cross the line and become the client as well as the consultant here?
Well, that's a great question. I think in our IT world, Paul, the key to our success was we listened, right? And we found people that had an objective to either improve their operational efficiency or somehow start using their data to be more effective. The idea of consulting with them to not only tell them what to do, but we hired some of the greatest consultants around the nation that would go implement it for them. So we were a delivery engine as well as that. Now, I wasn't the delivery engine. We did a large project in Salt Lake City. I'll be brief on this. There were one vendor had 19 people in, the other had 56 in, and they wanted us to handle their business intelligence strategy. And I think I had 22 people on the project. So I showed up 3 days a week for 6 months to wave the sanity flag, Paul, because with all those consultants running around one business, someone had to keep with the CEO there the soundness. Yeah. But their business was doubling 100% every year, and they had to gain control over it. So we, in the technology world, we got acquired, and we were in demand, and we got acquired. And then I started looking at what do I want to do next. And the one thing I can say is if you just do honest, integrity work for your clients, the word of mouth spreads. And I think we've always run that business. We tried to figure out how every one of our consultants could manage their business life and their personal life, because they all started families, they all had kids. And in the world of consulting, if you're a delivery person, you're usually doing it on site at the client's site.
Right. And you're on demand, 24/7 sometimes. They need you now. They got a question at midnight. They wake up in the morning and wonder what's happening. Yeah.
Especially when these large organizations have an offshore development team that works through the night. So if they're having a hiccup, they're calling us. So we had, obviously, I armed myself with the best of the best technology people. And they did their magic is the best way to put it. And we ran a company of culture saying, hey, look, Family comes first, but when you're at a client site, I'll back you on whatever you think the client needs. We may question your judgment, but you're fully empowered to make decisions on the spot because I'm not there. And when you give people that autonomy and the confidence in them, they treat it as if it's their own business and you flourish. Well, that put us in demand and we sold our business. As I was looking for what I want to do next, one of my employees' husband called her. And we had sold the business. We were trying to figure out what to do next. She went to work for another company. Most of our employees did. And she said her husband asked her, hadn't needed her help in over 10 years, but he needs it now. His CEO of his partner was leaving, and now he needs some help. She said, well, look, I'm busy. I can't help. But the only guy I've ever worked for that I had faith in and trusted and all that, and he lives in Orange County, you've met him before, is Dennis. So asked me if I could give some time to it. And I stepped in to say, what am I stepping into?
Yeah,
it's a totally different environment. It's a blue collar manufacturing environment, very prestigious one in the fact healthcare industry making a medical device and serving over 650 doctors across the US. All that sounds great, but it's a 5 or 6 day a week blue collar manufacturing lab making the devices. And I wasn't used to showing up to a place 5 or 6 days a week.
And keeping the line running here and keeping the machines moving. All right, let's clarify for everybody. Bio Orthopedic Lab does kind of what it sounds like. You make custom orthopedic shoes? Is that what you do? Or
actually, it's a great question because of the word lab in there, we get people calling up going, do you handle the processing of blood samples? No, we're not that kind of lab.
Right.
But Orthopedic Lab, what we do is we're in the business of making custom foot orthotics based on every patient's unique environment and whatever their practicing doctor is recommending for them. So we're in the business of custom foot orthotics that are insoles that go inside your shoes.
I see. Okay.
To help issues and then stabilize the biomechanical chain of the body, relaxing things from going out of whack.
So how does this differ from, forgive me, I don't want to shout out another competitive brand name, but I know if you go to like CVS or something, there's a carousel and there are some inserts that you can buy and you kind of measure your foot a little bit and then you put it in and it keeps you from, what do they call it, pronating or something? You're turning your foot in and you're turning your foot out.
Look at you.
Yeah, I went through this because I was doing something.
You know that. First of all, anything you can put inside your shoe that gives you a heel cup and some arch support is better than nothing. All right. So there are off the shelf insoles you can go into stores and you can buy. That's better than having nothing.
Right.
But I use a simple example that I never knew it. But Paul, in a perfect world, when we walk, we want our Achilles tendon to be straight up, right? That's the biomechanical chain of the body. I found out I roll my foot. If I roll my foot, what happens to Achilles tendon? When it goes, guess what? The ankle wants to pull it back. The knee says, oh, I got to pull you back. And then the hip wants to do it. So the body tries to self-correct, which ends up with the up the body problems. Simple thing with a custom device is put a lateral wedge on the outside. So when I hit, I don't roll. And never know it's there, but it just stops the foot from doing it. Others, I got a problem at one of my metatarsal heads, and it's painful when I step on it. In the custom orthotic, either put a pad in there to stop it from hitting or a pocket accommodation so it doesn't hit when you walk. And there's lots of other things that go into what makes it custom. Those are things you're not going to get in an off-the-shelf device.
And is it rigid or is it soft like the custom insoles? I'm thinking of just sort of a soft thing and it kind of pushes your foot back, or is this something more rigid that really holds your foot in place?
Well, there's a combination of both. Most of the custom orthotics for what I'll call non-diabetic people do have a hard shell to it, whether that's a polypropylene plastic or whether it's a very thin graphite. The issue is it's got to have the structure you need for the heel cup support and the arch height to withstand the walking on it. Then you wrap around it the top cover, the bottom cover. I call it the squishy stuff that makes it comfortable. And so the combination of the two gives you a functional device that has stability but it also gives you the comfort and cushioniness that you need when you're walking.
All right, so we've got an idea. You got pulled into you sold your business, you got some money, you got a desire, you're not ready to quit and go to Tahiti yet here and live on the beach. So what do I do now? You get pulled in really accidentally through an ex-employee's spouse or something here, and all of a sudden you're consulting with these people. I still don't hear,
Yeah.
When did you decide, hey, I'm going in, I'm going to become a part owner, I'm going to take over this business here?
Well, it didn't happen overnight. What I agreed to, and I got a phone call from one of my former employees who had a call from her husband that ran Bio Orthopedic Lab and said, needed help. CEO, after all these years, wants out. I'm going to retire, move to a different state. And I think I need help. She said, well, what do you need? Well, I probably need to buy stock back, so I need an attorney. I probably need a new CPA because he handled the business side and all that. And she said, well, I'm busy. Dennis sold our business and I'm back with another company, billable 60 hours a week. So I really can't help you, but I would think that Dennis should be able to at least help you out and maybe navigate you to the resources that could be of help.
Right.
And so I agreed to step in, maybe one day a week for 1 hour, 2 hours, just to try and get a handle on the business.
Right.
And then I figured out that when the CEO left and the remaining majority shareholder was operationally oriented, hadn't paid a vendor in several months, things like that. So
this is when it starts to get dicey here. Yeah, there's bigger problems.
Yeah. So financially, you need to get a handle on it. The bookkeeper, me coming in, and honestly, Paul, the bookkeeper had been there for 8 years, was hired by the former CEO, trained by him. And as I started asking questions, why is revenue flatline every year? Great revenue, but not really making any profit. And as I kept asking questions, she gave her 2-week notice. Wow. And I said, okay, now you need me to help full time. We got to backfill that and we got to get a handle on it because your business is solid. Loyal doctors across the nation. I concluded initial view of the industry. How are they in demand? Why are they in demand? Well, one, you must be delivering quality. Right. And two, you're probably underpriced, right? And so I found out that doctors stayed loyal because of 2 reasons. One, it was phenomenal quality they were putting out. And then 2, it was below normal prices for other labs.
And we'll talk about that in a minute when we get to the marketing idea of how this thing was marketed. It's been around for 30 years. It was mostly just a referral kind of business. It sounds like doctors referred you clients. You didn't go out and talk to the public here. No. So you had a network of doctors who referred you clients and said, my client needs some help. These must be orthopedic surgeons or foot doctors or something here. And they're sending their clients to you to get this custom insert made. But you walk in and all of a sudden you're getting sucked in. This is like, it's a bad analogy, but it sounds like Don Corleone and the Godfather. Just when I think I'm getting out, they pull me in. You know, you just thought you're coming in quickly and all of a sudden you're there every day and everything. I'm still waiting to hear, when did you decide I'm going to put up my own money? I'm getting into this thing here.
Well, what ended up happening, and I do say this, that please nobody interpret this as a correlation, but the remaining majority shareholder was happy he had me coming in, taking a look at things. When the bookkeeper decided to leave, I said, all right, I've got to understand everything that bookkeeper's doing so that we can figure out how to stabilize and go forward. And I started showing up 5 days a week. And it was about 2 months of me immersing myself into learning their business. We threw analytics at it to figure out what he makes it's profitable, what he makes it isn't profitable.
Something he'd never done in 30 years, it sounds like here. Yeah.
No, I asked him how he gets his clients. He said FedEx shows up or UPS shows up at the back every day and they unload all these boxes from doctors. Right. So literally operations, not on the business development side. I learned that they had never done really any marketing in any way, shape, or form. They grew the business to about 650 doctors, maybe $3.5 million a year in revenue. Wow. And it was solid. It just consistent, but never understanding of how and why. Well, as I started to lay out everything and got a picture of it, left on a Friday afternoon, see you on Monday, I get a call from my ex-employee, his spouse, saying, I don't know what to do. He walked downstairs, had a heart attack, and he passed away. And it was that literally that urgent. And at a young age of in his early 60s, you don't expect to hear those things. We got a attorney involved and the minority shareholders and said, what do you want to do? And the spouse, not having any children, husband gone, said, just shut the thing down. And I said, oh, time out. There's people in the back that have been here 30 years that deserve to work. One of the shareholders, minority shareholders, a doctor, said, look, give us time. You're there. I don't know this industry. I'm not medically oriented. I didn't come from the healthcare industry at all. But he said, you're there. We're not. Can you just try and stabilize it?
Keep it going.
And while we figure out what our plan is. I got to tell you.
Because one partner had left and retired. The remaining partner was the operations guy. It doesn't sound like he had much marketing anyway, but he was the operation guy. And one day he walks home and dies. And now you're left holding this business to some other shareholders, to some employees. This is over in Santa Ana somewhere here. And everybody's looking to you. Oh, my God, just keep this thing alive till we figure something out here.
There were some real challenges here. One of them, which I'm sure you can appreciate, the banking institution that they were doing business with, really not a lot of communication with them. And they had heard that the CEO had retired, and they heard all of a sudden that, the owner, the remaining majority shareholder, passed away. It was a cash flow consideration when I stepped in, how to manage cash. Solid integrity, all the vendors. I'm here. I'm going to pay you. Let me just work out a plan of what we can do, and we'll get you paid. But you had to make payroll every 2 weeks, right? And literally, I don't blame them, but the financial institution heard of his passing. We had enough money and put it into the payroll account to cover payroll on Friday. And on Thursday, they swooped all the money out because there was a line of credit that hadn't been paid down. And I had some choice words.
They panicked.
Well, I don't blame them because they had nobody of record. So those were some of the challenges where I said, look, open communication about what you're going to do and let's work on it. But the point is, we were able to survive over that. But I made a commitment to, and when you make commitments to people, you're not always sure why you did it. And but solid people, the other remaining shareholders, nobody should have been hurt. And that one doctor said, will you stay and help until we figure out what our plan is?
And as you said, it's basically a solid business. It may be a sleepy business. It may need to be updated and revised and revitalized a little bit, but it's not a business losing money. It's kind of on autopilot, and the pilots have left the airplane, and all of a sudden you're there flying this thing kind of blindly, and the more you discover, I mean, look at what happens. The owner dies, the remaining owner dies. You're suddenly approached by the rest of the partnership group, the minority partners, including his ex-wife. She says, shut it down. Everybody else says, please, just keep it going here. There's clients out there. There's customers out there. There's people expecting to get paid like they have for 20 years. The bank goes in and grabs all the money and panics, so suddenly there's no way to pay people. You got a lot of things you got to think on your feet. Here's my question to you. Why did you stay? You could have just flown the coop and said, hey, guys, I just came in as a consultant here. You got a mess. You need somebody else. I'm out. I'm gone. I'm going to Tahiti and take my profits from my last business, and good luck. What pulled you into this? Was it the commitment you found yourself making? Was there an interest in the business? Was it just the challenge of trying to do something here? Sounds like a little of all that.
It was a little of all of that, but in reality, when there's a crisis situation and people are looking for help and you have the time available that you can give it from an integrity standpoint, why wouldn't I try and help them out? And so I've got a lifelong friend in that doctor because literally he asked me to stay and help it. And over time, I got a personal friend who also is another UCI graduate, which is kind of nice to say. But the reality is everybody deserved to keep doing their job and be there. And now fast forward to 8 years later, we have a guy retiring. So they've been in the back working for almost 40 years, and now there's a guy retiring. But I made the commitment to jump in because I felt that I could help, and they would crumble. It would go away if someone didn't do that
quickly. And it happens every day. small businesses, no succession plan, no idea what they're going to do, just do it till they drop. And then one day something happens, something tragic happens, and all of a sudden it starts imploding, and all this value you've created, all these jobs, all these relations, everything else goes. I see you're a good guy. I say you stepped in. You didn't have to. It wasn't your mess, but you were intrigued. You were there. You're holding onto the ship, and pretty soon you're pulling it together. So at some point you invested in this and you became a partner?
Not initially. It took close to 30 months to figure out what the shareholders and the spouse were going to do. And we had to fill out the remainder of the lease we were under, which had 30 months left, which is the other shareholder was a personal guarantor. I didn't want to elongate the story, let you know that, but right. He was on the hook for the lease for another 30 months. That's why he asked me, can you stay? And I looked at him and said, yeah, we'll figure this out. Well, guess what? When you don't have resolution after 30 months, you can't renew your lease because you can't get a quorum, right? You don't have enough shareholder
right.
majority vote. So they ended up where the spouse agreed that she would give the stock back, but she really needed the entity to shut down. Her attorney was saying, boy, if they kept alive for 30 years, maybe they're going to sell the business. You're the majority shareholder. Don't sell it. And I said, oh, no, we're stabilized, but It's not going to be something that's there. And she agreed to give back the stock so we could have a quorum and we could vote what to do next. But they wanted the entity to shut down. So we were an entity 35 years ago called Bio. We operated under a name called Image, and we had to shut Image down, so we went back to Bio. It was when we went back to Bio that I became an owner of the business with one of the other doctors, and now said, okay, we can operate under it. And again, loyal clients, all they needed to know is that same people in the back making it, same people in the front doing customer service and they stayed loyal to us. But the roller coaster from a marketing perspective, Bio to another name and now back to Bio, we didn't do a great job, which led to we only had to put a website up to validate we're operating under Bio with the same phone number and the same address, right? And we really didn't put a lot of attention into it because it wasn't a critical part of our go-forward strategy. And today, I think our current website is still that. It's just a validation that we're there in the same place in Santa Ana.
So you had a lot of people, a lot of moving parts. The widow, the other guy, investor who's probably a passive investor more or less, but he's on the hook because he had the credit to put a personal guarantee of way back when. And you've got a bank that's in panic. You got a landlord that's probably nervous. The lease is running out. You get employees saying, what's going to happen to us? You came in, the white knight. Really, honest to God, my hat's off to you. You stabilized this thing. You say this took a couple of years, but you stabilized it and thing. And once it was, you said, I've put too much into this. I'm not just riding on to the next project here. I'm going to put my own money into this thing here. And
it gave me an opportunity over that 30 plus months to figure out that one, the healthcare industry is not going away. Certainly the aging population, everybody ends up having issues with their feet. So the idea of solving issues with the feet, being in part of the healthcare arena, that's not going away. So at a business level, when you look at it, I may not be an expert in it because I'm not a doctor, and I may not be an expert in the back because one of the other challenges is I don't speak much Spanish.
Right. The workforce is probably mainly Spanish.
Exactly. Right. So communication barriers are there, but basic business fundamentals said this could grow. I mean, we do, I won't put any names out here right now, but we do for major colleges all orthotics for their men's and women's athletics. Okay. And we have done we've done professional football teams where when they get together in July to start a season, we would do the orthotics for them. I'm going, wow, if we do one major college in an entity, why don't we get all of them, right? Yeah. So I saw tons of future growth here. And business fundamentals, if you got a good product and stable business, how do you grow it? Yeah. And that became the challenge. That became fun for me to say, where do we take this thing now? And so that was probably the hook when I said,
and I'll tell you, one of the
in
interesting things is my late father was an executive with Chrysler Corporation. He was a regional manager. He was a dealer relations manager. He knew a lot about dealership operations. He helped set up dealers. He trained dealers. He oversaw them. He motivated them. He held them accountable. He thought he really knew it. But he said, I always wanted to try it myself, and I was too scared. A couple times he had the money. He could have left the corporate structure and taken a dealership. There was a couple he found, and the company would underwrite it and all this other stuff. It wasn't the money. He was just scared. He was curious to see if he could do it himself after 30 years of telling other people how to do it. But when it came to it, he was nervous. Easy to tell someone else who suddenly all the things you thought were so obvious get lost because you're in the forest, you're in the weeds, you're in the short-term problems here. You're not standing outside dispassionately looking at it like he was for all those years. Did you experience any of that?
And that's a valid point. I think if I could use the term properly, a serial entrepreneur. My father was always self-employed. I was an economics degree major. I went to work right out of college with a major Fortune 500 type company that put me through a 1-year training program patterned after how IBM did their training. So I understood bureaucracy. I learned corporate bureaucracy. I learned how big companies operate. You don't get big without processes.
Right.
But I think the idea of me, how do you build a balance between work life and family life has always been the challenge, and everybody has it. So I stayed on the entrepreneurial side of things because that's the best way to control doing things. Now, when you run your own business, it's an 8-day-a-week job, as you know, and other people you've talked to.
Absolutely.
And
you can't always see the problem when you're in the driver's seat. I've seen, because I've been both sides. I've been a consultant different times. I have my business now, this radio station, this podcast channel. And sometimes I have to remind myself to step out of things and look at it like the consultant and not the, oh my God, there's a fire and there's a fire over here and there's a fire over here and I'm losing the big picture. You have to, as they say, you have to get out of the business to work on the business sometimes. You get so wrapped up in the day-to-day problems.
What you said is true. And the thing that I came to the realization is it's a solid business that would keep everybody employed. But if I'm going to jump into it, how do we get more operationally efficient and how do we grow so that it can produce the money to handle more infrastructure? I mean, a lot of single points of failure in a small business, right? I mean, There's a lot of people I use the analogy, a football analogy, in a small business, nobody goes home at the end of the game with a clean uniform, right? We don't have a guy standing on the side waiting for 3 downs and then I'll go kick a field goal type deal. No, everybody gets their uniform dirty. That's the beauty of a small business, but it's also a risk factor of a small business because you don't have a lot of redundancy. Well, operations and the money only supports that. You don't have the money to invest in the infrastructure. And so it became a challenge. How do we grow this? How do we start increasing the revenue so that we could then start hiring some of the blocking and tackling processes and people, so we remove some of those single points of failure.
Right.
And that's what we started working on.
Well, let's cut to the future then here. A long time to get this thing stable, long time to get your arms around it, to figure out what you were going to do with it, and the decision that I'm not going to leave. I'm going to keep this thing going. This is my next chapter. This is my next challenge here. You went and started analyzing this stuff over all the years. You start learning the business. And one of the things you realize is there's other ways to grow this business other than just hoping the doctors keep sending you boxes of molds to make here. You talked about universities, you talked about colleges, you talked about NFL teams. There's a variety of other things here. Talk about the public. Can the public, was there ever a talk about maybe getting an expensive proposition? I don't know how you'd let the world know you exist, but maybe me, rather than going to CVS and getting that one off the shelf, maybe I'd want to get it directly from you.
Well, that's exactly what we concluded. There's a factor that led to that, Paul. One of them is, I used to say that attorneys controlled the flow of business, right? Attorneys were very valuable for business, but they controlled, kind of our society. I've now thrown in that insurance companies have a similar role there. Doctors are going to do whatever the insurance companies will reimburse them for. And across the nation, more and more providers are not having orthotics part of their program for their members. So they're not getting that paid for as part of their premiums or what they pay premiums and the benefits they're getting. So we have a changing dynamic where doctors are going to refer to patients whatever they're getting reimbursed for. Now the patient still needs orthotics. So what do? So they're looking for using their HSA or FSA card, and they'll go out and they'll private pay. And we were lucky enough to have some doctors in the Orange County area say, I could charge you private pay and I'll charge you a lot. But you can go to the best lab we know in the nation, coincidentally happens to be 5 miles up the road. I can send you there. They'll take care of you and they'll charge you about half of what I charge. And okay, so we were equipped to do that. And I won't get into the technical credentials, but we brought people on to help with the doctors across the nation that were credentialed. They could see patients directly. So in the midst of saying, okay, at a high level, the wholesale business is going to start going down because the insurance companies are not reimbursing the doctors as much. And what's growing is the private pay. People need to go somewhere and, they have no idea where to go. So I instantly said, we're now in the education business. We are an educational institution. We're going to educate the public to what we do. Now, what's the best way to do that? Social media. What do we know about social media? Nothing. And so we got introduced to SBDC that said, look, we're in the city and county and state of California, we're issuing some grants. And they said that you're a perfect candidate as a small business to be a recipient of this grant, and it comes with the consulting to go with it. But we want to give you the grant to start doing social media. And so we took one of our employees and moved her into a quote unquote marketing role and said, we're going to start investing in building all the social media platforms. And we're going to try and drive consumers in a 20-mile radius of our Santa Ana location and see if in fact we're successful doing that. And you got to love metrics. If you're in the world of business or if you're in sports, you look at the scoreboard, right? You like to see who's winning, who's losing. Just a real quick metric for you, and if we want to get into this more, we can. But a year ago, August, when we started down the social media approach to set up our social media platforms, start doing outreach to the community via social media, a year ago, August, we did 52 private pay patients coming in. Fast forward a year later, August of 2023, we had over 212 patients that were in.
Wow.
So it's working, right? We're making the visibility. And what we're doing is we're educating them. There's benefit in going, like you said earlier, to the pharmacy store and buying an off-the-shelf device, but it's not custom for you.
Right.
It doesn't have support if you pronate. And you mentioned the word pronate when we were talking offline.
I had to learn all this because that's what I was doing. I forgot pronate is you turn your foot in and one is you turn your foot out. Or
supinate if you roll it when I roll it. So again, these were all terms I heard before as an athlete but until you get in the industry, you start learning what all this really means. So we're in the education business and we use social media as a way of doing that education. If you have this problem, this is how a custom orthotic can help, et cetera. And it's been resonating. So, and now we're the ones charging the patient directly. And the difference there is a higher margin. So, what they pay versus, like the doctor said, I'll charge you, but they'll charge you half, right? Well, that half is still more than we would pay him or charge him if he would have taken the order and sent it to us. So it made sense from an economic standpoint. And then everybody knows two friends, right? They got family and friends and word of mouth, et cetera. So we were very happy to launch into that step. And I cannot say enough for, the infrastructure that SBDC has put available to us, because they not only did sessions to teach you the things you need to do, but they came along right alongside you and said, you do it this way. And I took a brand new person with an HR degree in college and never done marketing in their life and said, all right, I'm going to do all this. Well, you and I both know if you were going to go in and do brain surgery on a family member, wouldn't you like to have a practitioner with you? Say, oh, don't cut there.
Yeah, it'd be nice. So let's give a shout out to your consultant, your SBDC Marketing Center consultant was?
Steve Barth. And we also had a gentleman by the name of Jim Freeman helping us in the beginning stages. So we were lucky enough to have two people that have flown this plane before.
Right.
And in college, teachers, professors would teach you a concept and then give you an assignment to go try and figure it out, right? Put it into practice. Well, in real life, you got to put it into practice. You got a huge learning curve. Having the consultants teach us what to do, but then saddle right up with us and say, do it this way. And, oh, don't do that. Don't cut there, right? Yeah. It just shortened our learning curve to getting this going. And you know what? They're in the business of just watching people flourish. And we're very appreciative. We're very grateful. But if we would have had to fly the plane ourselves, we'd probably still be trying to figure it out. But we were in the middle of maybe 3 to 4 months of investment that we were starting to see tangible results on a month in and month out basis. So Steve has been magical. And again, he doesn't have to help us the way he helps us. I think he takes an investment in us as well. All consultants put some sweat equity into their clients. When they see them trying and when they see the results happening, it just fuels the fire for let's keep going.
So the SBDC not only found a grant for you, they found some great people to work with. And if I understand how it works, it was for free on your end. They get paid from the SBA.
I pinch myself every day because I come from the consulting world. Usually you get what you pay for. In this case, there's a commitment from the federal government all the way down to local counties and municipalities, and then entities like SBDC, that how do we build our economy up? How do we help these small businesses? Because when you run a small business, you don't got a lot of extra time, and learning something new is hard. So if you can allocate the time, they'll shorten the learning curve because they're alongside with you. And that's the only way we would have made it fly, because the demands of the business are too high.
Well, you're flying high. You came in by accident, stumbled upon this thing, were asked to do emergency surgery, to do field triage. You're out in the field here trying to save lives and keep this thing resuscitated and alive. And all of a sudden, when it's stabilized, you decided, I put so much time and effort, and I can see so much potential to this. I'm going to get involved myself. What a great story. Last question. At this stage in your life, you look like a man of a certain age like I am here. Did you ever think you would be on such a ride like this?
No. Never did I think, A, I would be switching industries, but two, it reinforced my fundamental values that society revolves around hardworking individuals. And doesn't matter what the industry is, if you've got loyal people that are good at their trade, they deserve to keep doing it. And the satisfaction over how to make it more efficient, how to introduce some operational efficiencies and have them accept it and go forward, quite rewarding. And we're always going to have fun. Everybody should come to work, should have fun, and it should be a family environment. But our fundamental principles have never changed, right? It's still work balance and family balance that we all have to strive for. And now, how do we grow? How do we start getting more people into it? And we've got a strategy for how to do that.
I hope you will come back a year from now, 6 months from now, and give us an update, because what an amazing story. At a point in your life when you could have easily said, this is it. I put my time in. I'm going to play golf. I'm going to travel the world. I'm going to sit home and watch TV, whatever it is. You almost got pulled into this thing, a little bit kicking and screaming. And then once you got pulled into it, it took hold of you, and it became a passion. It became a fascination. It became a commitment to the people who were there, good people that deserved a shot at this. And you did what few of us consultants would ever do. You put up your own money, and you said, I'm going to get involved in this thing, and I'm going to make it work, and I'm going to take it to another level.
Well, and you also have to have the infrastructure support from your family. Yes. And I have a wonderful, beautiful wife for 40 plus years who knows I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah, she could have easily said, we're not going to risk this is our retirement, so we're not going to do this here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more of, you're going to put a lot of sweat equity and you're going to put a lot of time and energy in, but we're behind you. We're there because we know what you can do. And that support takes a lot of pressure off on the home front, right?
Right.
But it became a wonderful opportunity. Again, sounds glamorous, right? We're in the healthcare industry. Healthcare is not going away. We're making a medical device which adds value. So it's got a lot of characteristics that are worth hanging your hat on. Now, how do we educate the market to how can you get this, being that your insurance isn't covered anymore and you can't go to your doctor to get it? So long story short, our first step in our strategy is we're going to prove what we did in Santa Ana in another location. And we are opening up in December our retail-only operation in Las Vegas, Nevada. I am in Las Vegas, Nevada right now. Now we're in a real big education world. But I will ask you, Paul, in the United States, is there a more concentrated community of workers that are on their feet all day than Las Vegas?
Never thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah. From the casino workers to the hospitality industry to the construction industry because of growth. We could not.
The dancers on stage all night here. Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. So if there are people experiencing issues and they need the benefit of custom orthotics and their insurance isn't covering it, what's their alternative? So we're starting a very big campaign, talk about investing. We're going to try and educate the community here and drive them into our facility. We'll still have our facility in Santa Ana making all of the orthotics. Now, if you put your big hat on and looked at the big picture, if we can duplicate this here, why can't we go to every major city?
Yeah. Who am I to say? You took on a challenge that few of us would have taken on. Most of us would have walked out and said, I'm sorry, guys, but this is not my mess. I can't help you. And instead, you held it together. You took it on as your own, and you've taken it to another level here. I could see these all across the country. I could see this.
If we do it right, there's a potential. Now, that's where the return really comes in. That gets fun at the business level. But I'll go back to my own personal makeup. Small businesses work hard. Small businesses count on their people, and they make commitments with other people. And I made a commitment to a doctor that looked like he was being harmed because he was a personal guarantor on the lease. I thank my stars every night. I have got a friend for life. Some of our vendors have been friends for life. And Paul, it's only about integrity and shooting straight. I told one guy, I can pay you. It's going to take 2 years, but I'll pay you a certain amount every month. And the CFO of our vendor company called up when that last check came in and said, I just have to call and tell you, I've never had a vendor honor their commitment. No. Never. You made the last payment.
Not in today's world, I'm sorry to say. When times get tough, the commitments go out the window. Sorry, that's the nature of it. Everybody gets left holding the bag, and somebody comes in and tries to clean up.
When you shoot straight as a small business owner, when you shoot straight with people and you walk the talk, you build friends for life. And we should never stop getting friends and acquaintances across the nation. And I don't know how to live any other way.
Well, I hope you'll be a friend for our audience for life. I hope you'll share this story. What an amazing tale. What an incredible story of you and your perseverance and being a good guy. I'm going to say it, stepping up to help people that you didn't have to help. And then in the process, helping yourself, taking on a new challenge at a next chapter in your life when many of us are not taking on new chapters. All of that makes a fascinating tale, and I can't wait to hear where it goes. Thank you so much for coming.
I will put one closing thought, which everybody that runs a small business knows this. You can't do it alone. You got to arm yourself with the best people available, right? And whether it's full-time employees or outside consultants. And we were just in a very fortunate situation to be able to leverage the strength of what SBDC did for us. So they became an active part of our business. Again, you're only as good as your team. And we've been able to assemble a good team. One of them we never knew was even available to us. But boy, have they helped with the transition of where we're going.
Well, let's help get your name right, because somebody pointed out to me, I think I said Krause. It's Kause?
Yeah, my middle initial is R, and it's easier to transpose it, but it is Kause with no R.
I don't know why, but I guess I'm not the only one that does that here, but I saw an R. So
and just like the attorney who says, I don't care what you call me, just call me. Well, you know what? In the world I've been in, if you remember anything in call, it doesn't matter to me. No, I got pretty thick skin. Maybe that's part of the German heritage, but the bottom line is middle initial is R. When I have business cards made, I keep it in because people will transpose it. And if they remember me, that's great.
There you go. Well, I'm going to remember you. I think everybody hearing this will remember you. Dennis Kause, Bio Orthopedic Lab. Watch for them in your neighborhoods, folks. If they can do it in Vegas, they could do it anywhere, really. What plays in Vegas doesn't have to stay in Vegas. It can be a model for everything. Yeah.
Never thought of it like that.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to use that, Paul. Thank you.
That. All right. Thank you so much for joining us on this amazing tale, a little longer than some of ours, but well worth the time. Thank you for joining us today on this Profit Talks podcast.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.
As we conclude another episode of the Profit Talks podcast, we hope we've empowered your entrepreneurial spirit. Reach out to us to connect with our experts, and let's take your business to the next level. Keep those dreams alive, keep pushing forward, and stay tuned for more. And if you liked what you heard in today's podcast and you want your business to reach new heights, just contact us at profittalkspodcast.org or call us at 1-800-616-7232. That's 1-800-616-7232. So until next time, keep thriving.